Today, Caitlin and I will be chatting about proven tactics for crushing the CrossFit Games Open. Now, if you're listening to this and you're looking into getting prepared right now for the 2024 CrossFit Games Open, it might be a little late. However, no, I need to start over again. That was bad.
You don't need to say any of this.
Okay.
Not right now, at least.
Welcome to the Pack Mentality Podcast. I'm Matt Banwart. My wife, Caitlin, and I own Red Wolf CrossFit in Huntington Beach, California, and I've been coaching for 16 years.
Okay, let's take a break. Should we drink this water?
No.
Or do you think it's poison?
It's probably poisoned. You messed me up.
How so?
Because you're like, oh, don't do that, do this. I'm like, hey, I had like 5 minutes to prepare for this. Welcome to the Pack Mentality Podcast. I'm Matt Banwart. My wife, Caitlin, and I own Red Wolf CrossFit in Huntington Beach, California, and I've been coaching for 16 years, and Caitlin has been coaching for 6 years. We started this podcast with one goal in mind, and that was to make fitness accessible, engaging, and effective for everyone. Today, Caitlin and I are going to be chatting about proven tactics for crushing the CrossFit Games Open. And we're also going to kind of go into the details of how we personally like to design training programs at our gym. And if you're doing the 2024 CrossFit Games Open, well, this podcast is definitely for you. So give it a listen. So let's start off with how the preparation actually starts. So let's actually go to the beginning. How soon do you think preparation needs to start? Even if you're just doing the CrossFit Games Open just for fun, how far in advance do you think someone should get going?
Just to kind of prepare for it, I would say 3 months. This is for somebody who's not taking it like super seriously, obviously not a professional games athlete or anything like that. But if you want to, do really well, especially in your age group or category, then, probably at least 3 months in advance, I would say, to kind of go through a full training, maybe like 1 or 2 training cycles, leading up to it, and then hopefully peaking right when it starts.
Cool. And then I'll kind of give some context to what training cycles are. If you're listening to this and you don't know what a training cycle is, so there's 3 main styles of training cycles. There's a macro cycle, a mesocycle, and then a microcycle. So a macro cycle is a general yearly plan. So we look at the entire year and then we kind of just write bullet points on different sections of the year, like typically in 3-month blocks of what we kind of want to focus on. And these can actually change as we kind of progress, depending on the data we collect from our clients. And then after that, we move into mesocycles, which is training cycles that last anywhere between 3 to 16 weeks. Typically, a standard training cycle is anywhere between, I would say, 4 to 8 weeks is the typical range, but they can go as long as 16 and be as short as 3. And then microcycles are just like the weekly, daily programming that you see. And that's kind of how we plan things out.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're going to be doing this kind of 3, like you said, or 4-week cycle leading up to the Open. And in it, we have our basic foundations of what we're working on. Leading up to this, we were in a heavy squat and pressing cycle, which, in turn was kind of prepping us for our muscle endurance for our legs for the Open. And then also we were kind of focusing on overhead pressing because we see a lot of that coming up.
Yeah. So those of you who are at the gym, you're aware of this, but if you're not training at our gym, we just came off an 8-week, 20 rep max back squat cycle. And I love this style of training that leads up to the CrossFit Games Open, specifically because it's heavy on work capacity and you can actually build strength and strength endurance at the same time, because we saw a lot of people's 1 rep max go up as well along with this. And then also builds that mental resilience, because the 20 rep max cycle can be taxing mentally as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we all know everybody gets really nervous before they really go for their 20 rep. No matter how many weeks in you always get that nervous jitters beforehand. Yeah.
And in terms of the 20 reps, transferring to CrossFit movements, like the chances of us seeing thrusters, wall balls, cleans, squat cleans, rowing, like anything that's leg intensive, it definitely makes the legs more powerful for a longer period of time.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we like pairing those movements together. And then we're going to see definitely a lot of that for our personal training cycle at the gym the next 3 weeks. We're focusing on rowing and then barbell cycling and a lot of pulling, because we see a lot of pulling in the Open. Yeah,
we're definitely, I mean, you're never going to go through a CrossFit Games Open without pull-ups or, most likely bar muscle-ups. Let's kind of go into more details about our current training cycle that we're starting right now. So you say we're working on barbell cycling. Can you kind of go into some more details on, the reasons why we do it, and also like how long we're going to be doing it?
Yeah, so I think naturally everybody gets really used to doing, 1 or 2 reps at a time, especially in a lot of our workouts that we have been doing in the past. Barbell cycling is a lot more uncomfortable. Being able to hang onto the bar, it requires a lot more grip strength, coordination, and of course muscle endurance as far as the movement goes. So we're going to be doing a lot of touch and go reps, and touch and go reps means basically you're hanging onto the barbell the entire time and you touch the floor every time. So a lot of that, because it requires, full range of motion. In the CrossFit Open, we do see a lot of hang work too, but for me, I think hang comes a lot more naturally for people. I think touching the floor is a little bit more challenging. And so if we kind of prepare ourselves for the most challenging movement, hopefully also the easier movement will come naturally to us.
Yeah, and I think one common misconception a lot of people have is they think that CrossFit is all about training movements, but we're also training energy systems. So when you're training in interval styles with touch and go reps, you're actually training what's called the creatine phosphate system. And what that is, it's the energy system that requires very short bursts of energy that is also not a 1 rep max. So we're talking about the 3 to 5 rep range, very rapid, fast muscle contractions. That's the main energy system that's being used.
Yeah, so we're going to do a lot of deadlifts like this. We're going to do a lot of cleans, snatches. Like those are the 3 main cycling movements that we're going to 100% see in the next few weeks.
Yeah, awesome. And then you also mentioned that we're going to be working on pulling. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so just like I said before, we were doing a lot of pressing, bench pressing and overhead pressing in the last few weeks. So we're transitioning now to a lot more upper body pulling. Arguably, I'd say everybody's weakness is probably pulling more so than pressing. Pressing comes more naturally for people. So we are all very underdeveloped with the overhead pull, even the horizontal pull. And so we're going to be doing a lot of different styles of pull-ups, especially if you don't have strict pull-ups yet, or, a dynamic pull-up like kipping or butterfly. You definitely need to train in different varieties or types of movement. So we'll do ring rows, banded pull-up, jumping pull-up, chest to bar pull-up, a lot of, variation to kind of get us stronger in that sense. But I also want to throw in some bodybuilding movements like bent over row to help supplement for strength and get people stronger for that.
Right. And I think a common misconception a lot of people had, or at least I had when I first started CrossFit, was that I thought I needed just to do more of that movement to get better at it. And that's not necessarily the case, because you're only training certain muscle groups. And guess what? If you can develop the deficiencies or constraints in other muscle groups, then that will definitely help you with either your pull-up endurance or your strength.
Yeah. And also it's really boring to just do the same movements over and over again. So having a little bit variety, and training this essentially the same muscle group, like that makes training more fun. And also, sometimes doing a movement differently, it might click for you, and then you can apply it then to another movement. And for example, I just had a lot of people do bent over row, but in quadruped style, elevated on a bench. And it really clicked for people to understand the lat activation, the side, the oblique, staying tight and neutral and square versus staying on the ground and having to do that yourself. Sometimes having that assistance or structure to keep you stable helps you realize what you should be applying in the pull-up or in the bent over row with a barbell or something like that.
Yeah, totally. And I specifically remember when I started working with my coach and I was training specifically for regionals, I remember that I almost laughed because I was like, why are we doing these bro movements? I was like, why are we doing single arm dumbbell row? Why are we doing bicep curls? Why are we doing strict pull-ups or lean away strict pull-ups? And I didn't really directly question it, but I still did it. And then I remember after doing all those extra movements, the main benefit was I could get more volume in for those muscle groups. My joints weren't killing me. And also I got far more time under tension. Mm-hmm. So my muscle endurance and my overall strength improved. And then when I did go back to kipping pull-ups or chest to bar pull-ups, like it felt like I was invincible. Like I felt like I could just crank those out like nothing. So, I mean, don't ignore all these small movements. They may not seem very cool or sexy, but those things will get you to the next level if you've done properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And then combining this whole pulling talk that we're doing and the barbell cycling, I mean, both kind of go hand in hand. Both are pulling movements. So we're pulling off the floor for that. And I want to get stronger. I want people to get stronger with their upper backs so that it will then apply to the barbell work as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And something that we really focus on, that Caitlin and I focus on when we're designing these training programs, is like we just don't throw a bunch of crap together and hope it works. Like we use progressive overload. We balance training between frequency, intensity, and volume. And the thing is people think that they need all three of those, when the reality is that you can only do two out of the three of those in one training cycle, or at least in waves of a training cycle. So for example, in our previous cycle, we were training on mostly volume, especially with squats and pressing. And then now we're kind of moving into more, I would say, an intensity and frequency phase.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what frequency means like how often or how much we accumulate the same movement in during a week. Typically, intensity is typically just like how it seems like how intense is the training. And then finally, volume is the accumulation of reps, sets, and total weight move during that week.
Yeah. So right now, frequency, we're doing barbell cycling and pulling a lot. I think people have noticed now it's at least 3 or 4 days out of the 7 we're going to be focusing on this. So if you come into the gym, 5 days a week, you're probably going to hit pulling in some way, shape, or form a lot. And that's okay. It's okay to front load or overload, because that's what the focus is right now. And we'll see the benefit, 3 weeks from now when we hit the open. And then from there, we'll just start focusing on something else again.
Yeah. And this is what's great is, I know this podcast is about how to, crush the CrossFit Games Open, but if you come to our gym, all you have to do is show up and show up frequently. So kind of moving into that, what days, if for our listeners who do go to our gym, what days should they be coming in?
To work on the pulling and everything? Or
just to, if you were to choose, because I know we have our priority days. So if you guys don't know this also, we have priority days where we design certain workouts on specific days, because that's when the most amount of people come.
Yeah.
So what days do you think, if you're prepared, want to get prepared and just do okay or just have fun in the CrossFit Games Open, what days should they be coming?
Well, I try to do my priority days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I like at least 4 solid days. But Tuesday, Thursdays are super important too, because it's kind of it's your opposite day. So those are our pressing days for the most part. We're going to be focusing on pulling, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and then we're going to supplement with core work and pressing, and probably some sort of squatting on those days if we haven't hit those already.
Yeah, totally. So, if they're deficient in those things, they should still come.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And, this kind of comes down, we can't really tell you because there's so many of you, but if you know what your deficiencies are, and a good test of this is if you don't want to come and do the workout and you're not sore, it means you should probably come.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to see people in here 6 days a week, if not 7. I have I don't know. It's not just me, because I know other people have said this too. It's hard to take a rest day when you're really enjoying your programming. So if you enjoy your programming and you want to come in every day, you should. You can just, modify and scale things as needed. But I think everybody is capable of working out 7 days a week.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I try and work out 7 days a week. And then this is also where the volume, frequency, and intensity comes into place. We're not saying that you should work out 7 days a week intense. And I think that's when people associate the word CrossFit, they always think intense. And CrossFit isn't always intense. CrossFit is heavily skill-based. CrossFit also focuses on long endurance workouts as well. It's just that we only have an hour of the day for the most part. So we try and maximize the hour as much as we can. So a lot of times that is done with intensity or volume. Yeah,
and if you're on a good training program or with good coaches, you should be able to navigate and learn and be able to do the whole week and do all the workouts and just kind of, and it's a process. It's about learning and training and figuring out your body and what you're capable of. And if you end up being really sore from something, just know that's totally normal. It just, for me, I look at it as well, I'm just really weak in that area then. Like
Yeah.
if I get really sore from something, I'm like, wow, I really need to work on that, obviously. And everybody gets sore in different areas, right? Like for example, today I was really wrecked like in my traps. I'm like, is anybody else really sore in that? And then some people said no. And I was just like, okay, well then I guess my shoulders and my trap shrug is just probably weak and lacking, and I just need to work on it more, or I'm not used to barbell cycling. So obviously I need to work on that more. And so that's kind of how I read my body, and then, make the next step in judgment on, well, how am I going to train the next day? What's the priority? How am I going to do that?
Yeah, that's awesome. And then this kind of leads perfectly right into my next kind of subject, which is, we balance everything really well between the three main energy systems. And the three main energy systems, again, if you don't know what those are, so we have the creatine phosphate system, which is the very short burst of energy. It's almost more central nervous system as well. It is muscular, but your central nervous system is what controls the movement the most. And then we move into, which is the glycolytic system, or it's also known as the lactate system. And this is kind of like almost like your CrossFit zone, almost, but this is very short. This is like in that 2 to 3 minute range where you're mostly using lactate as a fuel source. And this is where it burns. So think of it like an 800 meter run, 500 meter row. It's like very intense, like you don't have to think, you just have to go as hard as you can for that duration. And then you have the aerobic system, or also known as the cardiovascular respiratory endurance system. And this is where you're actually pretty much in like the 5 to 7 minute range. And a lot of people don't know that. They think that they're in like the lactate area when they're in that 7 minute range, when really you're starting to tap in to that aerobic system. And this is actually the most underrated energy system and most undertrained energy system that I see in CrossFitters.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, we just came off of a very short workout on Monday, and then we did a long 25-minute type of workout on Tuesday, and then again today we went short and fast. And so having the balance between all the systems, like you're saying, throughout the week, super important. And then also knowing like your capabilities. But like you said, the aerobic base is definitely undertrained. Everybody is uncomfortable going.
Well, it's really boring to train an aerobic base.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not sexy at all.
You have to
It's
go
terrible.
long, like super long.
Yeah, we're talking like 60 to 90 minutes plus.
Yeah, unbroken of movement.
Yes, to truly train the aerobic system, it's a lot longer than you guys think. Like just because you're breathing hard doesn't necessarily mean that you're in the aerobic system yet.
Yeah.
It's to the point where lactate or your glycogen is completely depleted from your body, and the only thing that you're using for energy is oxygen. That's why they call it the aerobic system. It's aerobic literally means with oxygen.
Yeah, I mean, everybody gets uncomfortable in the 3 minute, 5 minute range, but in reality, like you're kind of resting a lot still. It's very interval like for a while, and then you kind of tap into, like you said, the aerobic base just has to come into play, and then you keep moving.
Yeah.
But we see a lot of people resting, on and off, and not that consistent movement is important when you're training aerobic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's important to remember too, a side note here is that, the energy systems aren't like gears on a car where it's just like, oh, like I am now in glycolytic, I am now in aerobic. It doesn't work like that. They all work together, and you can actually use all three energy systems at once. And this is what makes CrossFit beautiful. And this is what I think how we are able to get such results in such short amount of time with our training is because we can balance these three energy systems, and we can balance our exercise selection, reps, sets, and tempo, and combine this in a combination to where we're hitting almost all three of these systems all at once in one workout.
Yeah, that's what makes CrossFit great. I mean, me personally, I'm biased. I don't see any other fitness style that can hit all three at once. And being a very busy adult with, a family, like I want to maximize my time as much as I can. And so that's why this is the best type of training, in my opinion, because you get all three at once.
And believe me, like if I could find something better, I'd be doing it because
100%.
I want to save time and I want it to be effective.
Yeah. And I can't find anything more effective. When I do try to do like more just bodybuilding, or maybe just more, aerobic where you just sit on a bike or run or do anything like that, again, boring. And I don't feel as accomplished as I do when I do strength training in CrossFit and hitting all the systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we design training programs, like the order that we design things is we always look at exercise selection first. So we find the most effective exercises that will give us the most amount of return on our investment. And then after that, we go into reps, because reps are king, because if
volume.
Yep. Exactly, because a 1 rep max bicep curl means nothing. Yeah. So we need to make sure that our reps are appropriate for the exercise. Then after that, we go into sets, because that is the main controller of volume, because there's a big difference between 5 sets of 20 back squat and 1 set of 20 back squat. Yeah. So that's where sets come in. And then finally, rest. Rest is really important, because this is going to control whether it's metabolic, whether it's going to be aerobic, or whether it's going to be strictly muscular. So if you, for example, if you do, we'll go back to the 5 sets of 20 back squats. If you do that and rest 1 minute, well, that's probably going to be more metabolic and more aerobic, because you can only lift so much weight for 20 reps for 5 sets with a 1 minute rest. But let's say we do 3 sets of 3 back squat with 3 minutes rest. Now we're training in that CP is short for creatine phosphate system, and we're training our nervous system and our raw strength. Yeah. With a 3 minute rest, and our central nervous system. And then finally, we end with tempo, which is very important, because a lot of people think that rep ranges are king. Rep ranges are extremely important, but time under tension is actually what gets strength and muscle growth at the same time. So for example, if you accumulate about 75 seconds of time under tension on a movement, you're actually training muscle endurance. If you're in like that 15 to 20 second range, you're training strength. If you're training in like that 30 to 45 second time under tension, and we're talking per set, then you're kind of in that hypertrophy zone. So the reps don't really matter, because you can get the same stimulus by doing lower reps at a slower tempo. Yeah.
And that's why doing tempo correctly is super important. It's not always about putting more weight on the bar, but instead doing the seconds correctly, so that you can get the most out of the training program and what was intended.
Yeah. Funny, I just had a training session earlier with one of my clients, and we were doing 5 sets of 5 back squats at 185 with a 3-second tempo down. And that's roughly, in terms of what the stimulus was, that's roughly equivalent to a 5 sets of 5 back squat at 225. Yeah. But the benefits of doing that is that the spine isn't getting as compressed. The joints are getting trained as well. You're training your tendons and your ligaments, and your muscles are more likely to grow, and you're going to gain that strength. So the beauty of it is that is also that you don't need to warm up as much.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I always tell older population, specifically my dad, I mean, he calls me a lot and asks me about training volume and stuff like that. And I always tell him, just slow down. Just go a little bit slower with your reps and add some tempo to your work, maybe pause in some positions instead of always looking to add weight or add more.
Or just sprint the reps, because then you'll get not much out of it.
Exactly. Slower is actually sometimes better.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that kind of leads me into my next point of how we design training programs is, I do a thing called the 3 Ps. So the first P is plan. So this is where, think of it like you have a box of a puzzle, and you have all the puzzle pieces, and then I just dump all the puzzle pieces out. So I just do pretty much a brain dump. So I just dump all my ideas down, everything I want to do. And then after that, once I dump it out, I start prioritizing. So the second P is prioritize. So I take a look at what actually needs to get done, and then discard the rest. So I can't do everything in every training cycle. So that's, for example, that would be I have my puzzle pieces, and then I start organizing my puzzle pieces by color. And then after that, we have periodize. So this is where we start getting the details together. And this would be the equivalent of hey, I'm going to start putting my puzzle together, and I'm going to start doing the edges of the puzzle. And then that gives me essentially my training cycle, or gives me at least a framework to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. In regards to the open, I mean, we kind of looked at it backwards, I guess. Okay, the open is in about, 6 weeks when we were first talking about all of this. And we're working backwards, what do people need to work on the most? We kind of brain dumped everything out.
Exactly.
And then from there, we kind of pick and choose, okay, what is the most important? What did we just work on? So that we don't want to repeat ourselves again. And then from there, we started planning backwards on how we were going to get people better at these things. And prepared for the open itself.
Yeah. And not to mention also, we collect data through SugarWOD. That's the app that we use to collect workouts and data on there. And then we look at that data and we're okay, what overall as a group do we need to work on, or what is the biggest constraint that's going to hold us back from moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, for example, in the last training cycle, we did a lot of lunges, front rack lunges, back rack lunges, and every week I would go back and see, okay, what weight did we do? How well did everyone do at it? How much volume did they do with that? How well? And then I thought about the classes and how well they did. And then from there, I kind of pick weights, and I slowly progressed everybody up to heavier lunges. I mean, I don't know if anybody noticed that or not, probably not. But for me, that's kind of how I was slowly progressing everyone to get stronger at single leg movement throughout the weeks.
Yeah. So it was pretty much forced progressive overload.
Yeah. I mean, and that's exactly why I encourage people to log things on SugarWOD, because it helps us program better in the future, and then to pick weights and, again, sets and volume.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of backtracking, what should we expect leading up, like in the last week or two to the CrossFit Games Open? Like, what should they expect for training wise?
I want to do a couple repeat, open workouts. Okay. Some of my favorite ones, or ones that we really do. Honestly, some of the workouts that we have been doing are inspired from past open workouts. I went back and looked at, the most popular ones that we've done and the movements, and I kind of program backwards that way, but definitely expect some repeats so we can maybe compare some of our times. If you've done a previous open in the past, maybe you can see if you've gotten better. And then also a lot of, again, I think a lot of couplets and triplets. I mean, we always see couplets and triplets in the open. You'll most likely see like an AMRAP style workout and then a 1 rep max of something. Last year it was a thruster. Mm-hmm. Remember that? And then I think the year before that it was a snatch or something. So we're probably going to see one heavy lift as always, and then a lot of couplets and triplets. Okay. Probably one chipper.
Awesome. Yeah, probably will. In 3 weeks, they're going to have a lot of things to get in 3 weeks, so we'll see what comes up. Let's kind of get into some practical tips now. Let's say that we are in the CrossFit Games Open. Let's kind of get into some practical tips on what people can do for each workout. I'm going to start with pacing. So knowing your engine. Now, this is something that common that we see in the gym, regardless if you're training for the Open or not, or if you're competitive or you're just here to work out. It doesn't matter who you are, but we tend to see people go out super hot right out of the gate.
Well, yeah, it's only natural. I mean, the 3, 2, 1 countdown, and then your adrenaline spikes, and then everybody around you starts moving, and so you do too. And yeah, I mean, pacing is definitely something that is learned, and you have to like really learn your body and feel, understand how you feel. But for more of a hard point example, the barbell cycling that we're doing, the point of it is to learn what you're capable of doing in a row, so that when you come up to a workout and there's, for example, 10 clean and jerks at 95 pounds, you can say, well, I've done touch and go reps for 3 at 95 pounds. So how can I strategically do this workout at 95 pounds and, be smart about it. So that's the whole point of logging your weights for the barbell cycling, so that you can understand what you're capable of, in a workout, and then plan backwards. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's something practical that you can do when you get in the heat of the moment, and you can start practicing this now in your workouts, is to start that first round or whatever round you're on at about an 80% effort. And then from there, the goal is actually to increase your pace towards the end of the workout. You should be able to have enough in the tank to where you can sprint like the last 90 seconds to a minute regardless of how you feel.
Yeah, I think everybody would rather feel like they can push at the end versus like you're hitting a wall. Yeah. Nobody likes hitting a wall.
It's not fun. Believe me, I've tried.
I mean, I kind of like hitting the wall sometimes. I like pushing myself all the way up until the very end and seeing what I'm capable of. But when you're kind of like newer to CrossFit, or, newer to just working out in general, I think always feeling more capable is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there any other kind of practical in workout tips that you have for people who are going to be participating in the CrossFit Games Open?
No, not really. I mean, I think just logging what you're doing right now, and then just being very mindful about like what you're capable of and applying it to the workouts is probably your best bet. I mean, like you said earlier, it's kind of too late to like expect a muscle up all of a sudden if you haven't really been working on that. But like anything else, you can always prepare for the future, and like maybe this will inspire you to kind of like get back on track to work on the things you've been putting off.
Yeah, absolutely. And just for context, like I've done every CrossFit Games Open since 2011, since the inception. And
is that the burpee year?
That was the burpee year.
Me too, then, because that was
2011.
That was mine.
I have a previous year up on you because I did sectionals. So I actually did my first CrossFit competition ever was 2010 sectionals, and then I have competed in regionals 3 times. And my coach who trained me was also trained other high level CrossFit Games athletes. So I have a lot of experience. I learned a ton from him. So I want to pass that knowledge on to you guys and at least let you know that hey, all the knowledge that I've accumulated from my coaches and everything that I've learned about everything from energy systems to planning, periodization, mesocycles, microcycles, macrocycles, all these things that I've learned is that we pass this on to you, which has taken us years to accumulate this knowledge. And then now we just filter it and give you guys all the best and prioritize specifically what's best for the group. And we narrow that focus all the way down to where we get it all in 1 hour in a class, 7 days a week. So all the work is done for you guys. So there is no secret, just show up because we know what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about this the other day with the noon class, how different our training styles and training cycles have changed over the years. For those of you who have been with us for 5+ years, I think you've now probably have realized like we don't program like 225 snatches anymore, or like ridiculously heavy weights, because what happens is like our community has changed, our priorities have changed. We've done a lot of different cycles and we've found what works best. And so that's kind of why our training style has changed into what it is today. And it's going to constantly change just depending on, what our focus is, who is at our gym and what is best for them. I mean, that's kind of what we always program for, is what is going to be best for the community to get everybody better. And prepared for whatever event we are planning, because as we know, we always have different things. Murph is going to be coming up and we'll have a whole nother training cycle for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like what you said. And this is something I think we do really well that I think some other gyms don't do very well, that I've been a part of, at least in the past, which is where they kind of force their program onto the gym population. Whereas we kind of look at it, be like, okay, what do you guys want to work on? What do you guys want to get better at? What do you guys want to, what do you guys want? And then we design that program based on what the needs are of the community, instead of just being like, well, I like this, so therefore you should like it.
Yeah, for sure. We're always looking for feedback too. So if there's ever anything that you guys want to work on specifically or train for, I mean, always let us know. We're always open to trying new things.
Absolutely. And before I wrap things up, I do have one last practical tip for you guys for the CrossFit Games Open. And this is something I wish I could go back in time and tell myself, which was, enjoy yourself and have a good time. Like it's all for fun. It's just a workout. Go and do it, have a good time, high five some friends, and enjoy your time out there. Because there was a time where I took it way too seriously. Yes. And the thing is that I really regret not enjoying it at the time, because had I known that would have been my last time on the regionals floor, and with the cameras on, the lights on, with all the beautiful equipment and everything, I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can always say that about anything. And I think we try to make it fun, definitely with the whole intramural open style that we do at the gym. So we have our themes posted already. I hope everyone is preparing for what they're going to wear and what they're going to dress up as. And that way, the workout is fun. It'll be every Friday for 4 weeks, starting on the 29th. It's usually 3 weeks for the open, and then the 4th week is the Red Wolf spin on it, and we usually do something fun and exciting.
Yeah. Let's go actually, before we close things up, go and tell us on how the CrossFit Games Open point system works, how we run things at Red Wolf.
Yeah, so everybody's going to be put on a team, either Team Matt or Team Caitlin, and from there, we're going to be participating every week. On the Friday, a class will do the workout. It's not something you have to show up extra for. It's just the class workout is the open workout. Mm-hmm. And you get points. Number 1 point for doing the workout, 2 points for dressing up. So the themes are your best wig. So you have to wear wigs. Week 1, week 2 is heroes versus villains. And then week 3 will be red versus black. And week 4 will be our intramural open shirt. And then from there, we're just basically going to be giving 3 extra points for top scores. And it was top male scores, top female scores. I think it was top 2 or top 3 will get 3 extra points for their team. So again, we're focusing more on the participation side of dressing up. You get more points for dressing up than you do for actually doing the workout.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's like the whole emphasis is on that. And it should be really fun. I mean, I think every year we have a blast.
Yeah, and the winning team gets the banner.
And winning team gets the banner in the gym, and there's a good amount of space for another Team Caitlin banner.
No, that will not happen this year.
To the right.
Team Matt all the way. Team Matt.
Yes, we shall see. So, that's what we can expect, and we should be excited.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, everybody, you get 1 point for just participating. If you do the theme, you get 2 points plus the participation. So you can get a grand total of 3 points for your team that week. And then if you place top 3, that could be up to 6 for one person. So it's really fun. We run it every year, and it's always a huge hit. We already have a ton of people signed up already. So you have to sign up by Friday and to make sure you get the shirt, because that's when we put the shirt order in.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Any final thoughts before I close things up?
No, I hope everybody has a good time leading up to this, and then we all do well and have some fun.
I love it. All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for listening. If this was helpful, please leave us a 5-star review so we know to make more content just like this. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Red Wolf CrossFit and DM your content suggestions there. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, good luck. Have fun. Nailed it.